The allegations were that you shared confidential information to an employee outside of this unit. I believe I made that statement to him, that you don't leave me no choice. And I think that's a direct quote. You don't leave me no choice but to ask for your resignation. Lanny had no further questions for Captain Moore. The deposition of Sergeant Craig Donoghue, California Department of Corrections. After Captain Moore's deposition, I stepped outside to take a break and to get a breath of fresh air. In the parking lot, a man stepped out of his truck wearing ragged blue jeans and a long-sleeved shirt. His appearance startled me enough to remember I left my gun in the car. The man slowly approached. I felt foolish. It was my old partner, Craig Donoghue. Sergeant Craig Donoghue and I worked together at Pelican Bay State Prison and had transferred at about the same time to Salinas Valley State Prison. We shook hands. I couldn't believe I recognized him. Buddy, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell the truth about what happened to you. Lanny began. Would you characterize Officer Vodka as being a credible correctional officer? Yes, I would. Would you consider him to be trustworthy? Donoghue replied, yes. I glanced over at Mary Kane Simon, and she was visibly unnerved by Donoghue's positive feelings about my character. Captain Moore had a report from Vodka, and Captain Moore was reading from that report. Does that give you a good reference point as to what this meeting was? Yes. Where was the meeting? It was in Captain Moore's office. The Deputy Attorney General interrupted and said sarcastically, Woof, we've got to go to this meeting. I'm trying to help you out, Donoghue said as he shrunk back into his chair. Lanny came to Donoghue's defense, and we appreciate that. Donoghue perked back up. Captain Moore, myself, I believe Robert Kim, he was in, and Steve Archibald. Lanny asked, what did you say? Donoghue stated that it was my feelings and my observations that it was time for Steve Archibald to move on, which means time for him to leave the squad. Lanny asked, what did you tell them? Kane Simon interjected, okay, if you can get on with this without going into any privileged information, please go ahead, or if you can give a general summary. Donoghue replied back, it was due to some of the memos that had come out, I believe. Some remarks that he was making that had come back. My belief that there was a leak, that is, it was possibly him. Was one of those memos a September 17th memo from DJ Vodka? And I'll show it to you to refresh your recollection. It's been marked Exhibit 7. Donoghue replied back to Lanny, I believe this is the memo that you were referring to. I know by reading a paragraph was being spoken to. Lanny asked, which paragraph is that? Second page, third paragraph. Why do you recall that paragraph? Lanny asked. In a serious tone, Donoghue replied, because it was read to me and others. I believe I've told him, Steve Archibald, he had one of two choices, that he could take a week's vacation until he was reassigned, or he can go ahead and work in the squad for that week until he was reassigned, period. That's it. That was the discussion I had with him. So you terminated his assignment from the squad at that point. I don't want to use the word escort, but I walked with Archibald to the squad office to have him pack his things. Did you have any discussions with him as you walked him out, or while he was packing his things? Donoghue looked across the table at me and smiled. Basically, he was very, very upset, pissed off, if you will. He was mad as hell at me, at DJ, at Captain Moore, at Lieutenant Kim. The basic feeling that I got, or that was received from him to me, was that, it was basically all of our faults that this had happened, that we misinterpreted, misread, misunderstood the facts. Lanny asked, did you say anything in response to his angry statements? Yes, that he needed to shut his mouth and move on and be a man. That's what I told him, not to upset my staff and my squad any further. You said you had subsequently had a meeting with Ezell Meadowbrooks right after that. What was that about? It was about the information that was divulged by Captain Moore during that meeting with Archibald, that I couldn't believe that Miles Moore did that. What was it that you couldn't believe Miles Moore had done? That he had put out there fuck, man. What was it that you couldn't believe Miles Moore had done? That he had put out there what the information that he had during the meeting with Archibald that was off the memo that DJ Vodka wrote. And it bothered me that, let's just put it this way, I was in disbelief that the man that was my supervisor of investigations did something like that. Ch17 shifted her weight in her chair. A little nervous, are we now? Lanny asked, did you consider that to be a breach of some regulations? I consider it to be stupid. Would it affect his work environment in some way? Donoghue said, it could, possibly did. It wasn't necessary. It didn't even need to go there. That's why we had a meeting beforehand, where we'd already talked about all this. I already told him what I wanted him to do. He doesn't need to let somebody know the source. Until he started reading from it, and my jaw hit the ground, and what the fuck are you doing was in my mind. It pissed me off that he used that to do what that didn't need to be done. Ch17 asked Donoghue, I think what he wants to know is, did you think that this was going to create trouble for Vodka, besides just being bad for morale, to have employees angry with each other this way? What a stupid question. Of course it was going to create bad morale, and that's to say the least. Angry now, Donoghue replied, yes, I felt that it could be a problem in many different aspects. We just got done getting rid of a guy for sharing confidential information. And what did we just do to that guy? That same damn thing we've been telling other people not to do. That's what pissed me off, and it makes me mad right now. Ch17 asked Donoghue, do you want to take another cigarette break? No. Lanny picked up again and asked Sergeant Donoghue, did you later have a discussion with Warden Lamarcky about what had transpired at this meeting? Yes, sir. Warden Lamarcky called me into his office. Was there anyone else there besides yourself and Warden Lamarcky? I believe Robert Kim may have been there. Do you know why he had called you into his office? No, I got called there all the time for different things, for good things. So what happened during the meeting with Warden Lamarcky? He asked me if it was true that Miles Moore had read from the memo that DJ had written, the one that we've been talking about. What did you say in response to that? I told him the truth. Lanny asked Donoghue, were you ever made aware that a green-handled buck knife with 723 engraved on the blade was brought into Salinas Valley State Prison? Donoghue replied, yes. Have you ever seen an invoice from an engraving shop in Salinas for the engraving of 723 on the blade? Donoghue replied back, yes. After the deposition, I walked Craig to his car. I knew Mary Ch17 didn't like it, but my thoughts on that, who gives a shit how she feels? Thank you for being honest, Craig. You're a true friend. I'm sorry to have put you through all this. I would have done it anyway, DJ. You're a great cop. This didn't have to go this way, and they know it. We shook hands and said goodbye. The deposition of Correctional Officer Eugene Gino Carranza, California Department of Corrections. Correctional Officer Eugene Gino shook my hand on the day of his deposition. Great to see you, partner. Are you still the #1 officer at the prison? I asked. Gino replied, still #1, but getting ready to retire. Lanny began by asking Officer Carranza, what is your understanding of the Green Wall? My understanding of the Green Wall, I've heard things of situations and incidents that happened on yards. Okay, and the things that you heard of, the incidents and the things that happened on the yard, were the things that you disclosed in your memo to Greg Lewis. Deputy Warden Mary Ch17 immediately interrupted. Okay, we're talking now again about exhibit. Do you have a copy of that exhibit here? Lanny said, I want to ask him his memory without looking at exhibit 4, Gino said. Like I said, the incidents that happened on the yard that involved individuals that were partaking in incidences. Lanny then asked, when you wrote the memo to Greg Lewis, your line indicates GW. What does that stand for? Gino replied, Green Wall. Okay, then you write, this particular clique is identifiable under the 3 labels, Green Wall, 723, or Code of Silence. What was your understanding of what the Green Wall, 723, or Code of Silence meant at the time you wrote this memo? Group of individuals who did certain things on different yards. What was the certain things? Unlawful. Do you recall what yards they were? D and C. Take a look at Exhibit 4. What prompted you to write this memorandum? I was ordered to write this memorandum. Lanny asked, by whom? Gino replied, Lewis, Greg Lewis. I was startled when my phone vibrated inside my pocket. I ignored it. Have you ever seen a hand gesture or hand signal associated with the green wall?